What are the Hunger Games for? Today we're going to jump into the movie review of The Hunger Games, The Ballad of the Songbirds and the Snakes. I just recently went and checked out the movie, and this is my review on it. So in this movie, the main character's name is Coriolanus Snow. This Hunger Games movie is actually the prequel to the movie that came out in 2012, and this follows the story of Coriolanus Snow. Coriolanus Snow is going to become the president in the future. So this movie is actually filmed 63 years prior to The Hunger Games. Coriolanus Snow's father and his mother both passed away. Now he's fallen on hard times with his grandmother and his sister. So he's trying to figure out a way to be able to get financially ahead to take care of his family. He comes up with the idea that he's going to win the prize.
Now let's take a break from forecasting our weather to forecast a bright future for one lucky Academy student out there. It's nearly time to announce this year's Plinth Prize.
And he's going to do mentorship for the new up-and-coming tributes that are now being brought in from the different districts. Coriolanus ends up being put with Lucy Gray from District 12. So when he ends up getting with her, they actually show her on the screen when she's being selected for the Hunger Games, and she starts singing a ballad, hence the name Songbirds and Snakes. So from there, they end up developing a relationship. Coriolanus starts off being a well-rounded, likable guy with a great personality and actually caring for people. And over time, you see that he grows an attachment to the tributes. So he comes up with different ideas as to ways that they can make the games better and make the people that are watching the games actually want to watch them, because right now the games are kind of faltering and they're having issues with sustaining the viewership as far as watching the Hunger Games. Dr. Gall is the one that created the games, and Coriolanus, he actually has different suggestions as to how the games can be made better. So having the actual crowd participation of the people that are watching the games get engaged with the personality of the people is a way that he's suggesting for them to alter the games. So Dr. Gall ends up having Coriolanus write up different things that he suggests for the games to make them better so that they can sustain. And once he ends up writing up this list, she ends up liking a lot of the things that he wrote on this list. So there's also another girl that goes with him to go meet with Dr. Gall, and she says she's the one that wrote this proposal with all the different things. So Dr. Gall actually puts her to a test because Dr. Gall has these rainbow snakes, because she's actually a scientist, so she constructs a lot of different things, and she has these rainbow snakes inside of a pit. And now the thing about this snake pit is that the snakes will bite if they don't recognize the scent of the person. So in this case, the proposal was written on a paper. Dr. Gall put the paper inside of the snake tank, and while it's inside of the snake tank, the scent is being picked up of the person that wrote that actual document. So the girl is told to stick her hand in there since she's the one that wrote the proposal. When she sticks her hand in there, the snake ends up biting her because obviously it didn't smell her scent. From there, she ends up falling to the ground. They end up having to give her, a shot to try and clear her, all that good stuff. Now, moving forward, Dr. Gall realizes that obviously that Snow was the one that did this. So Corio is the one that she ends up working with and deciding how the games are going to go. Dean Casca Highbottom, which is the creator of the Hunger Games, is bumping heads with Snow as far as the things that he wants done, and he notices that Snow is taking a liking to Lucy Gray. So throughout the time of him trying to help her accomplish the goal of survival, because obviously it's a survival of the fittest type of game, he gives her rat poison inside of a locket. He ends up seeing this as a chance to get his family into a better position and win the prize money. But then also during this time, he becomes torn with the fact that the prize money is one thing and then saving Lucy is another. So with Dean Casca Highbottom actually tells him, hey, even if she survives the game, you're not going to earn the Plinth Prize. From that point on, he has to decide what route he wants to take. So as he goes throughout this journey with her, doing the different challenges, experiencing, the different people attacking and things like that, you'll start to notice that he gives her different insights and finds ways to help her accomplish surviving through the actual games. So when the games started, they're all inside of the arena. You just notice that everything blows up. So there's all different explosions just happen all across the building, and come to find out out it's the rebels that blew up the building. So now a few of the actual tributes that are in the Hunger Games try to escape. Most of them end up being shot before they escape. Now one guy does get out, and his name is Marcus. And when he actually gets out, he gets recaptured, tortured. They beat him near death. He's hanging up on the top of the broken structure where they had the Hunger Games collapse, and they have him tied up there as if Jesus was on the cross. So now they're using him as an example to make sure that the other tributes don't try to get away as well. So from here, this is Coriolanus coming up with a plan for Lucy to be able to get out of the actual arena, because he noticed that the parts that are broken open actually open up some holes. So Sejanus Plinth, which is one of the mentors to the tributes, ends up going in to try and help his tribute survive, and then the Dr. Gall ends up telling Coriolanus go get him because she doesn't want her games being compromised, and that rebels seeing that as a weakness and wanting to take over the game. So he ends up going in. She shuts off the camera footage for about an hour. He goes in and goes to grab him. So now they have to try and escape. And as of now, Coriolanus has mainly done good things. He hasn't done anything bad, negative, anything that shows you that his signs of being a antagonist versus a protagonist are strong yet. Once this happens, the other tributes see that those two guys are inside. They try to attack. They're running out of the arena. They get to a side gate. As soon as they get over there, one of the tributes starts attacking Coriolanus. He ends up getting cut. His anger and his rage just take over everything, and he ends up hitting the guy with a rock. He doesn't just hit him once. He doesn't hit him twice. He ends up hitting him 3 times and ends up knocking him out, killing him. This is the first time that Coriolanus ends up killing somebody. You can see that he's fighting through that torment of, being righteous and now having these thoughts of killing someone. From that point on, once he ends up killing that person, feeling remorse for doing it, but then he also said that he felt powerful. So now that he's feeling this power, you can start to see a little bit of his energy change and shift throughout the movie, goes further in that direction. Once Corio ends up saving Sejanus and they end up getting out of the arena, he ends up going back and talking to the doctor again. And Dr. Gall tells him, filled with the terror of becoming prey, see how quickly we become the predator. Now that he ended up experiencing the hunt being on him, he ended up doing survival of the fittest, and he ended up killing that other guy. So she keeps mentally grooming him in the direction that she wants. So there's a lot of tests that she's working on to see what his mental capacity is and how he ends up going. Is he a moral guy or is he not? As the games continue and Lucy keeps getting different strategic help from Coriolanus, it gets to a point where multiple of the people end up dying. There's at least 6 or 7 of them dying, and there's one of the young black guys that's in there. He ends up going and grabbing the Capitol flag off the wall, tearing it down, and he goes and picks all the bodies up and he puts them all in a line and he covers them up so that the people that are watching can't sit there and just stare at these dead bodies and basically disrespect them. He gives them some type of dignity by covering the bodies after these events had happened. Multiple people start dropping and there's only a few people left in the games. You'll see that Corio figures out the fact that the doctor is going to end up releasing those snakes. That's going to go into the pit and it's going to attack all the different tributes. Her purpose of doing that is that she wants to wipe out all the tributes because now she's pissed off and enraged over different things that are happening throughout the time. Once he finds out about this plan, he devises a plan to be able to help Lucy survive the snakes being in there. He remembers that he has a handkerchief that he can use to put her scent onto the actual handkerchief because the snakes, again, are ones that realize a scent. If they can smell the person, they usually won't attack. So he goes, he has the doctor, he rips open his stitches from when he got attacked by the other tribute. He ends up going back to the doctor's office, sitting with her, telling her, hey, I need to get stitched up because he wants to be close to the snake pit. He gets back over there. He ends up putting the handkerchief inside of the snake pit. So now they have that scent. Going forward, they end up releasing the snakes. They drop them into the pit with all the other characters. All the different tributes end up being attacked by the snakes and basically killed. So there was, I think, 3 or 4 that were left. Now it's down to just Lucy. She starts singing. And as she's singing, it seems like maybe that the snakes are being wooed by her singing. That's keeping the doctor from knowing he actually was helping her, going around certain rules of the game that he was not supposed to do. Even with this being figured out and the snakes not attacking Lucy, Dr. Gall was still not trying to let her out, but because everybody on the screen saw her and they started feeling empathy and sympathy for her, and she was singing so beautifully, they were enjoying her songs, and crying and all these different emotions overtaking all the Capitol kids, they ended up convincing Dr. Gall to let Lucy out. Once she gets out of there, this is when it fast forwards and Corio ends up going and meeting up with Dean Highbottom, and Dean Highbottom basically tells him he knows he was cheating. So he shows the makeup compact that's full of rat poison. He shows him the handkerchief. He figured out exactly what he did, that they poisoned the other tributes so that way she could survive, that he also put the handkerchief inside the snake's cage so that she didn't get attacked as well. From here, he ends up banishing him to one of the districts to now be a peacemaker. With doing this and sending him to one of the districts, now he was supposed to go to District 8, but he ended up bribing one of the ladies that was filling out his paperwork to send him to the districts to allow him to go to District 12, because that's now where Lucy was going to be headed back to after the games. Once he ends up arriving at the District 12, he starts his training for becoming a peacemaker, and he's learning the different things that they're required to do, the job, how it works, all of that good stuff. So Janice, the other guy that was the Capitol son, he ends up going to District 12 with Coriolanus. They're there together and they're basically buddy-buddy. His personality starts to trickle out more and more. He ends up hearing that Sejanus was going to set up a plan to help the other people in District 12 be able to escape from the actual concentration camp. And when he's setting up this plan, the songbirds, they actually record messages by doing their singing. So what's happening here is he's actually taking the recorder and he has one of the songbirds sitting there while Sejanus is telling him the plan, and he's recording him without him knowing. When you fast forward to them arriving at the club where Lucy Gray sings, she's doing her performance on the stage. You can see that Coriolanus is excited. He's happy about her singing, but then he also is paying attention to Sejanus to see what he's doing. So he sees that he disappears. He follows him backstage behind the doors. Once he gets inside of there, he sees that they're formulating a plan to escape, and it's one of the mayor's daughters and a couple other guys in that room. Once they come up with this plan to escape, he's trying to give pushback on this plan, and then Lucy ends up busting into the back room. Now this is when things start going a little bit more crazy, because one of the guys in there named Spruce, he actually has a gun in his hand and he's getting antsy as far as, them deciding what's going to happen with the plans, who's going, who's not. Mayfair Lip, the girl that's the mayor's daughter, she actually is pissed off now because her boyfriend that's in there coming up with the plans basically says that Lucy's with him. So she takes it as a slight towards her that he's trying to date her. So when she tries to leave the scene, this is when Coriolanus gets upset. He ends up grabbing a gun and he shoots the mayor's daughter. This is the second person he's killed. So now that he's done this, Lucy's in shock and awe. Now they're trying to figure out how to fix the situation without anybody else getting involved. The other guy, Spruce, he ends up shooting the boyfriend. So now there's two bodies dead. And so now they're trying to figure out how to fix this situation because Sejanus is feeling some type of way. Coriolanus is doing his thing. He sends Lucy back out to go finish singing. Spruce ends up taking the weapons, and he's supposed to hide these weapons or get rid of them for him. Sejanus, Coriolanus, they decide to head out. They come up with the plan that they're not going to tell anybody and that they'll still have the potential to get the life back that they want, because the goal that Coriolanus is setting up is that he's going to go to District 2 because now they see how smart he is and what type of intelligence he has, that he can end up being a higher ranking official in their military of the peacekeepers, and then eventually work his way back to the Capitol. Once this plan plays out, the mayor and the other people come in and they're upset trying to figure out who did this. They end up finding Spruce and they end up grabbing Sejanus. So now both of these guys, they put them up on the pedestal to hang them from nooses. So they're all, with their heads wrapped in there, and they end up finding Coriolanus's recording. So now they're playing the recording of Sejanus telling the plan of what they were going to do prior to it happening. Coriolanus is basically standing there watching one of his best friends, Sejanus, now be hung, all because he recorded him secretly and put him in this bad spot. Essentially, he's responsible for 3 deaths, 2 that he did by himself, the third one that he basically implicated his best friend at doing. So now you can see it as his personality keeps continuing to change, that he's starting to get darker and darker. And Lucy's starting to pick up on these things as she goes as well, but she's not leading on to that to where he knows exactly what she's thinking. But she says a couple comments here and there that kind of gives you information, knowing that she's not liking the things that this man is changing into, and it's not the guy that she fell in love with that had the caring compassion for people and that was trying to bring about change. At this point, Lucy's now feeling some type of way and she wants to get away from everything. So she decides that she wants to go north to this lake area that is secluded from everything. Coriolanus is deciding that he wants to live this life with her, and they run away together. In the process of them planning to run away together, Coriolanus tells her that he was in the process of trying to go to District 2, and this is another strike that makes her feel some type of way about him because he's not informing her things in advance. He's waiting to, spring them on her. Now, once they end up going north, they get to the cabin and Lucy tells him, hey, you could go ahead and go fishing outside. There's some fishing poles under the floorboard. So he goes to go check the floorboards, and it's actually the guns that they used to kill the mayor's daughter and the boyfriend at the actual club where she was doing her performance. So right here, I think she knows that the guns are in there and not a fishing pole, and she basically tells him like, hey, you get rid of this gun, you can get your life back. You can go back to the Capitol, because she doesn't have that same trust for him anymore. She basically gives him an out as to how to fix his life, and she could tell by his face and the reaction that he wants to do that. So as he's going over this process of wanting to get back to the Capitol, she's now a lot more weary of his personality and who he is. She's focusing on her exit plan. So she ends up telling him she's going to go pick up some Katniss, and then he's like, wait a minute, it's not in season. Oh, she's like, oh, well, sometimes life changes things around or whatever. And then also it was raining too, so he was like, it's raining. And she was like, well, I'm not going to melt. He starts to get a little bit suspicious. She goes outside. He ends up going outside after her to figure out where she went, and now she's disappeared. So she left him. He gets into the woods. He has the gun with him. He's starting to freak out, and now he's letting his anger out. You start to see the rage that's inside of his character, so you can determine if the man is starting to feel the darkness taking over his body and things like that. As he starts to go through this process of being enraged, and he ends up seeing something go by and he thinks it's her, so he starts shooting. He shoots it, walks over there, doesn't find it, whatever it is. Now the birds are, going in the air, and she's singing their song, and the birds are flying around, so he's shooting, trying to get the birds because, they're circling around, making a lot of noise and things like that. He doesn't end up finding her. She disappeared on him. He goes back to the district. Once he gets back to the district, this is when a lot of things change for him. So he ends up getting brought in by one of the captains of the Peacemakers, and they tell him that he has an exemplary score, very smart, knowledgeable, testing, all of those different things. He's going to get moved up and get reinstated and brought back to the Capitol faster. But he also didn't know that Dr. Gall was testing him the whole time. So now she calls him to the Capitol, and once he ends up getting to the Capitol, she tells him that he's cleared of everything. He's going to get his life back. He's now going to have money. She already told Dean Highbottom, basically to fix his life. And Dean Highbottom and him were bumping heads throughout the movie because Dean Highbottom didn't like that he was kind of undermining him and that he was doing a lot of things smart and changing up the games from the way that they were. Now Dr. Gall is telling him that he is going to be under her wing, and she's going to coach him through all the different things because she's excited that the fact that the changes that they made based on Coriolanus actually was a big success. A lot of people are watching the games now. He was going to put more lives into the Hunger Games. So with doing this, he's learning the evils and how to become more and more of this type of person that has bad intentions versus when he had his good mindset and he was more caring of people. Now he's seeing the game as a necessary evil. The doctor asked him, like she did in the beginning of the movie, what are the Hunger Games for? His response now, the whole world is an arena and they need the Hunger Games every year to tell us who we truly are, the victor. She tells him, welcome home, Mr. Snow. Now that Coriolanus Snow meets up with Dean Highbottom, he ends up having like a little vial that came out of the belongings of Sejanus. Dean Highbottom over time was starting to feel a lot of guilt from killing these people over time with the Hunger Games, and he was actually trying to shut them down. But now because Coriolanus Snow figured out ways to re-engage the people and reinvigorate the public, now he's taking over that role. He ends up deciding to poison Dean Highbottom. You just see how dark his character's getting. This is the fourth person that he ends up having something to do with their death. From there you start to see Coriolanus Snow start to get his life back. He ends up going home, going to see his grandmother and his sister. The grandmother tells him that he looks very good. And the sister, he ends up asking her, so what do you think? And she said, you look just like your father. So now he's starting to take on that persona of the father based on all the different actions that he was doing, when originally he was trying to be nothing like his father. Dean Highbottom also revealed that the games were actually created by Coriolanus' father, Crassus. If you watched the 2014 release of the Hunger Games Mockingjay, you would have known that President Snow, his favorite way of killing was using the poison vials. So that's how that part tied into when he killed Dean Highbottom. Finnick Odair even says, the perfect weapon for a snake. How fitting is that? That in the Mockingjay movie, he ties in the references of the ballads of the songbirds and the snakes to tie in that President Snow might be a snake. Toward the end, you see that Coriolanus Snow ends up saying the things we love the most destroy us. So that ends up being the ending of the movie. Overall, his personality and the way that he played, they built him up from being a good person to now being someone that just absolutely didn't care about people and that he would do anything to get in power. Tyrannical, crazy mindset that he changed into was something that was shown morphing over time, and it was worth watching and figuring out the story. Normally when it comes to singing in movies, I'm not usually a big fan of it, but actually in this movie, it didn't distract me too much, and the singing wasn't too repetitive and it didn't last too long. So when the singing scenes happened with Lucy Gray, I was actually kind of entertained by it, and she had a pretty sweet voice. When the movie ends, you don't know whether Lucy Gray is safe or she ends up getting captured or something happens to her. It just leaves as a mystery, which is also what happens in the books. I would say this movie was a solid 8. I definitely recommend you splashers to go check it out. Thank you guys for watching my video. I hope that you enjoyed my content, and I look forward to putting out more for you. If you can, go ahead and share this video with your friends. Like, comment, all the feedback helps me grow the channel. The sooner I can grow the channel, the more I could do for you guys and make it even more exciting when I do these videos. Thank you guys. Catch you on the next one. Check out my video on the Marvels and see how that film was.